Hey, everybody. Welcome to I Bleeping Love Packaging, the podcast for people who bleeping love packaging. And for those who just don't know it yet, I'm here with Adam Peak, who is just the king of the mountain, literally, for Label King, and has a amazing packaging career and story. And he's been a pastor or is a pastor, I should say, and has two books and has his own podcast called People of Packaging. And just really excited to have Adam on. So, Adam, if you want to tell everybody about yourself and kind of what you've been up to.
Yeah, man, I appreciate. I'm excited to come on here. As you mentioned, my pastoral credentials almost stopped me from being on here. It's the bleeping part. I think is probably a little bit too close for the Southern Baptist Convention, but I suspect that they'll let me carry on. Once they saw my tattoos, they were like, "You can go do whatever you want." But yeah, I live here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I moved here 8 years ago. I've got my five kids, just the one wife, and I run a label printing facility here. Am still on staff. I'm actually a preacher at a historically Black Baptist church in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is amazing. And my family and I love it. And I've been in the packaging industry since 2007, so 19 years in the industry. As you mentioned, I don't sit around very much. I just do things. And some of it works and some of it doesn't. Honestly, I've crashed and burned on some stuff, but here we are on I flippin' love packaging.
I was gonna throw it and actually put flippin' or not flippin', but other stuff. And I'm like, you know
Mhm.
what? I can't do that. Like I'll probably get called out by somebody. So we'll keep it PG-ish, PG-13-ish, I guess.
In Utah, I would say somebody might say, "My heck, I flippin' love packaging." That would be there was a comedian who actually said, "Has anyone ever been to Utah on purpose?" And everyone laughed, and he said, "It feels like you're trapped in a rated R movie that's been changed for TV. Some big guy walking around stubs his toe, and he's just like, 'Son of a biscuit basket, that hurts.'" That's a fun generalization of Utah, but, we really love living here, honestly. It's been a great place.
And so before you were in Utah, where were you guys at and what were you doing before that?
Oh, geez, the whole story. So, 1980, I was born,
Oh, we're
in
starting early, early, early.
Oh, I didn't know how
Yeah.
far back you wanted me to go.
No, yeah.
I won 2nd place in the baby beauty pageant in Santa Clara County in Northern California. I was, 100% healthy, but only 98% beautiful, which was a tough score to get. But it's true. That's my mom. No, so before I moved here, I've worked in a couple of different roles, mostly in sales and marketing. I moved out here because of a sales job with a company called WS Packaging, which is now part of Multicolor Corporation. And I was just coming to Utah a lot for work, about every other week. And it was a lot. It was a lot of my family. It was a lot of me. I wanted to quit. Honestly, I just wanted to find another job so I could stay in Colorado Springs. My wife and I are both from there. My wife and I have known each other since elementary school. So elementary school, middle school, high school. She turned me down for high school or for prom in high school. I had a massive crush on her that she never reciprocated in high school. We went to the same college and we started dating actually the end of her senior year of high school, my freshman year of college at the Colorado State University, which is the Harvard of the Rockies. So that's a little bit about my background. In packaging, I've mostly been in folding cartons, shrink sleeves, flexible packaging, but always around prime labels, pressure sensitive prime labels. So when I was at my uncle's company, I was in procurement and I bought a lot of labels and folding cartons. I got a job at a company called Leonard's Industrial Supply, which was like corrugated and stretch film and tape, but I found myself selling labels. And then I got a job with WS Packaging, selling a lot of labels. And then I got a job at Fortis selling labels and Myers printed labels. And so at some point in time, you just got to read the tea leaves and say, maybe labels maybe I should niche down. So, an opportunity came up to partner with Robert Parker and Label King in San Diego, and I took it. So, I am the co-owner of Label King in Utah. Robert and his incredible wife, Kim, own Label King in San Diego and are partners in this venture here in Utah.
That's awesome. And what do you think has been the kind of most eye-opening part about owning a business now? Because obviously you've been an employee and you've done a lot of sales and stuff in the past, but what's the big difference of being an employee selling labels versus being the owner of a company and selling labels and trying to keep the lights on?
They're almost completely different. The one benefit to being in sales is that you have to get used to income variability and elasticity. So people understandably look at salespeople within a packaging organization and they see the top earners and they go, those people are way overpaid. And maybe they are, I don't know. But what they forget about is the fact that you can get one phone call and find out that one person left and that the new person is going to move your business and you might take $100,000 a year hit in pay like that, and it'll go away within weeks. So getting used to that, it kind of makes you entrepreneurial. To be candid, that's why I started the podcast. That's why I started posting on LinkedIn. And that's why I started TikTok, was because I needed to market myself. I needed to brand myself. I had to have something that would carry because I didn't know a lot about printed packaging when I started. So I had to have an advantage or try to find an advantage, and that's where a lot of this stuff came from. So that is the same. The sales, the marketing, the branding. I've been doing that since about 2011. Maybe it was early 2012 I started posting every day on LinkedIn. So it's 2026 in the year of our Lord. That's been 14 years of posting almost daily on that site. It's annoying and obnoxious, and I hate the algorithm, and I'm so sorry if you're like, "I know that guy. He's always on LinkedIn." The fact is I'm not always on LinkedIn, but you probably think I'm always on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, I've found the same thing now that I've been kind of doing the job search right now is I now have been posting more than I have in the past just to try to like keep the people engaged, right? It makes it easier, I feel like, to network with people if you're engaged if you're constantly posting. But it for me, I at least, I mean, maybe I don't want to steal your secret here, but I schedule a lot of my stuff ahead of time where
Yes.
I'll put some stuff in for like the week and like maybe I'll do it on a Sunday afternoon and I'm sitting there figuring out what I'm going to post for the week and kind of schedule it out. So
100%. There are times where I, like, go check LinkedIn, I'm like, "That's a lot of notifications," and I will have completely forgotten that I had scheduled something to post, and it's got 117 comments in the first hour, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a bit aggressive." So, all of that stuff, I'll answer your question here in a very long-winded way, but all of that stuff is the same. There is a mountain, pun intended, of stuff that is different. Because while I was a sole income earner for my family, and I still am, so there's 7 of us, that's a heavy responsibility. Now I carry the responsibility of the employees who work here. And so there's 4 of us currently in Utah. We are gonna be expanding probably to a couple more people here coming up in the next few months. Knowing that now I shoulder that burden is that's a much bigger deal because it's already enough to be responsible for my family, but being responsible for running a business that takes care of other people's families is both a burden, but it's also the responsibility that I wanted. So if I might share one quick story about the mental genesis behind this, it's a terrible it's actually it's an awful situation. 2 summers ago, my son, also named AJ, he's an athlete, he's a basketball player in high school, and he was out playing in an AAU tournament, and we heard that his high school teammate was shot and killed. He was murdered. A case of mistaken identity, and it was a good friend of my son's. It was awful, and he's part of the South Sudanese community in here in Utah. So, if you don't know, Utah actually has a lot of resettled refugees from politically war-torn countries. It's one of the few states where specifically the Catholic Church works very closely with the state government and international governings bodies. And so it was just this moment where I thought, like, I can do more for this community than just be present, right? Like and our the church where I pastor is also in the Kearns community. We're right near West Valley. These tend to be on the poorer income side, not exclusively, but they tend to be a little bit poorer incomes. And so I thought if I can have a business that can create good jobs for people in these communities, then that sounds a lot better to me than I'm gonna say this, it's a little bit crude, but lining the pockets of billionaire private equity firms. I was working for Myers, that's not a private equity backed company. The Dillon family is incredible. 10 out of 10 recommend Myers. And that's where I was working. But just this idea that like I could create jobs and make a difference was a really big deal for me. So sorry for that really long-winded
No,
answer.
that's great. And I think that that's something that is difficult whenever you're working in a packaging role or whatever is, especially with things like, sustainability or with trying to create new jobs or whatever. It's like you're at the end of the day, you are lining somebody else's pockets if you're not owning the company. And so it's nice to, you know, see somebody who's trying to make a difference in their community as opposed to just buying their third yacht. So it's a nice change. I'm assuming you've already bought the first two at least, right? So
Well, I have the down payment on the first yacht. So
yeah, okay.
we've only been around for 6 months, and I'm really following the Latrell Sprewell financial model. That's a very deep cut between basketball and somebody who completely mismanages finances, but
So you've got People of Packaging podcast, right? You've been doing that for a long time, over 7 years. And how has that changed your life? I mean, you've really networked with a lot of people, and you have a huge network of folks. We met at Pack Expo one year. We met on a Ferris wheel, which was kind of wild.
it was amazing.
I met Adam because I kind of cold messaged you. Well, you messaged me because I was going to be a speaker, and then I messaged you back and was like, "Hey, we've got extra tickets to go on this big Ferris wheel. Do you want to go on the Ferris wheel?" And you're like, "Yes, I do."
Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome because I honestly didn't expect it because I was like, here's this like famous dude who I've looked up to on like LinkedIn and on the podcast and all stuff, and I'm like, there's no way this guy's gonna say yes to some random, package engineer to say you want to come on a Ferris wheel with him, but you did, and it was great, and I
It
had a
was
great time.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the downsides, honestly, about social media is it elevates somebody's importance beyond probably what it really is, if I'm being honest, but I appreciate it. Yeah, the podcast was interesting. So, I was at LuxPack in New York City. This was in 2017, actually, and I was having, drinks. Jesus turned water into wine and, promised that wine will be in heaven, everybody. So this is true. There will be alcoholic wine in heaven according to Jesus. So I partake of it here on earth as it is in heaven. I was having a drink with, my now good friend Ted Tate, who's a packaging engineer in New York City and a R&B and hip hop producer. And I had never met him before. And we were talking just about our love for 90s hip hop music and packaging and this weird kind of cross section. And I just was like, have you heard of these podcasts? Because I was listening to a bunch of Denver Nuggets podcasts because I love the Denver Nuggets, and he was kinda like, Not really." And so I just quickly looked it up, and I'm like, "There's not a single packaging podcast." And we were like, "Of course there's not. It would be terrible." But we just were dumb enough to think that we could do it. And so our first few episodes were awful, just awful. We didn't know what we were doing, and we just sort of went for it. And for me, Ted's job got really busy. I still talk to him very regularly. He's still a tremendous friend. He's I would love for him to come back and make podcasts if he wanted to. But for me, what really changed about my life was the discipline and the consistency that it takes to build a podcast on your own and to when I say on my own, I mean, Ted was extremely helpful. We just didn't have a company, a media company, for example, that was helping
Yeah,
us.
you didn't have like an editor. It was like you and Ted. It was like the just
Correct.
two guys. Yeah.
You gotta figure it out, right? So that just like, go figure it out. That rewired parts of my brain, I think, to say like, "Hey, you can do this." And to learn the value of consistency. I had already kind of learned that on LinkedIn, and I had built up to about 5,000 connections on LinkedIn. Maybe it was like 20, I think it was like 2,500 before I launched the podcast. And then I just began to figure out a person who is consistent and sticks to something over a long period of time is gonna usually win. It's really easy to start a podcast. It's really easy to post on LinkedIn. If you have a cell phone, you can start a podcast and post on LinkedIn. Those are not difficult tasks. It's very difficult to stay dedicated to something over a long period of time. I've been married to my wife now for 23 years.
Congratulations. That's a long time.
It's incredible. And I say this a lot, like, I genuinely love her more today than I did when we first got married. That's hard. It's very, very difficult to do that. But when you do it and you persevere through it and you understand that that perseverance, that is gonna remarkably change anybody's life, I think. And so philosophically, it had a big change. Practically, it's introduced me to some of the most incredible people in the world. Like I accidentally had a movie star on my podcast. Had no idea.
Who did you have?
So I start off this call. We have like an intro call, and I'm like, I just jump on because my calendar just runs my day. So I just like jump on. And I'm like, hey, so yeah, let's do this. We got introduced by somebody. I'm like, so where do you live? He's like, yeah, I live in split time between LA and Atlanta. I was like, oh, cool. Like that's kind of random. Why do you do that? He's like, because that's where the Marvel studios are. And I was like, um, oh, what do you do? And he's like staring at me like, does this guy not know? And I had no, I knew he had a brand called Lake House and they had some cool packaging. That was it. And so anyway, I said, what do you do? He says, I'm an actor. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't I'm still trying to process this. So I start Googling and he had played Captain America, but like the bad one and like the Falcon and Winter Soldier. His dad is Kurt Russell, his mom is Goldie Hawn. He was in like
I didn't know
Godzilla.
that.
His
Yeah,
name's Wyatt Russell.
yeah.
He was in Godzilla. He was in actually a made for Netflix show about the history of Utah and the Latter Day Saint Church. So I'm finding all this out live on a call with him. So I record the episode the day after he was on Jimmy Kimmel.
That's amazing.
It was incredible. No idea, right? So I've been able to meet some really amazing people. I've been on Ferris wheels in Vegas with people. And I mean that. I love to connect and meet people. And having a podcast that is about that has changed some of my closest friends, are Corey Connors and Avelio Matos. We met through podcasts and LinkedIn. Now they're two of my best friends. So it's it's changed a lot. It's given me access to people to help me with my business like I've never thought before. I didn't start it because I thought I would start a business, but it's been pretty useful.
The 3 of you guys have been doing the Packaging Today show. It's kind of a little bit on hiatus right now, but that for a long time, you guys were on every day, every morning, and that is a lot of work. I mean, I remember jumping on every once in a while and watching you guys, and I'm like, "I can't consistently watch this every day, let alone produce it every day." So, what was the thought when the 3 of you guys got together in a room and you're like, "Let's do this Today show," you know, did you guys assume it was gonna be every day? Because I don't think it started every day, right?
No, we started every week. And kind of the genesis on that was the I was thinking about, what podcasts do I listen to with regularity? And they tend to be not interviews. I don't really honestly, I don't listen to a lot of interviews. I don't go back and like re-listen to my episodes, for example, that I do with people. And we've made a lot of interviews. I've interviewed 380 people in 8 years or something like that. And I continue to do that. I still have a bunch that I have to publish. So, but I just thought, could we do this? Could we have like a regular or like a daily show to talk about the packaging industry? Is there enough news? Because like sports and politics tend to be there's a 24-hour news cycle with these things. And I thought, could we create that in packaging? And there kind of is, but it's a full-time job. It would honestly be a full-time job for us to really truly pull it off the way that some of these other podcasts do it. And to be totally candid, the packaging industry does not want to support that type of content through high-level sponsorships. Not enough to run that as a full-time job for 3 people.
Does a packaging sponsor, let's say, I don't know, I'm gonna make this up, but let's say that PCA is like, "Yeah, we're gonna sponsor your podcast," right? Are they gonna sponsor your podcast while also being a business owner? You know what I mean? It's gonna be kind of hard to navigate that.
I mean, yes and no. Large companies have marketing dollars, right? And, there is room for new media in the packaging industry. I think that that I've proved that out, that content will be consumed if it's done consistently and with a level of creativity. I certainly don't spend a lot of time on the creativity side, but it's gonna take somebody saying, "We really believe in this, and we wanna put, $100,000 a year towards it." And a couple of those companies kinda coming together and saying, "Hey, we really value this." They're non-competitors. Somebody could go do it and build on the platform. A brand in our industry will not be able to do that. If a brand or a corporation owns the podcast and there's not a person behind it, it's never gonna launch because people don't listen to podcasts by brands for the most part. It's a personality driven event. And so if you look at like, I don't know, Rock Auto, for example. They advertise on, like, every podcast, I feel like. I don't know why I know that name, but I do because these podcasts. They have created a brand awareness through podcast advertising that I think there are companies out there who can. SpecRite did that with the 3 of us for a number of years, and I think it helped them grow significantly. That's gonna be sort of the next phase, I think, of this new media is for companies to put some dollars behind it and really let it take off. I'm not looking for it anymore. I don't have any sponsors for any of my content any longer, and a lot of that is because I don't need the responsibility that comes with that because I have responsibility for Label King, and I don't need to be sponsored by somebody any longer.
Yeah. I mean, to circle back to your point about SpecRite, I hadn't heard of SpecRite until I heard it from you guys talking about it, right? The 3 of you guys talking about SpecRite and seeing you guys post about it and going to Spec Summit and all that stuff. And at my previous gig, we actually reached out to them as a possible company to do some spec management for us, or to have as a database. And the only reason why I even knew about it was because of you guys. So I think that there is validity there to be like, yo, if companies sponsor these things, people will come, you know? Before that, I was an ESCO guy, right? I was a web center ESCO guy. And so that's kind of how I always done spec management. Being able to get companies' names out there that SpecRite's pretty big, but not everybody has heard of them, you know? And so I think it makes sense to throw some media dollars toward it. But
Yeah, agreed.
yeah. Yeah. So when you're talking about stuff, when you're gonna come up with things to talk about on either the Packaging Today show or you're posting about things on LinkedIn, are you trying to be the like source of truth for these things? Or are you trying to be like trying to kind of get people excited and looking to them themselves? What is your goal with like, engagement wise?
Yeah, I have no I feel like Joker, right, in the second Batman movie, like, everyone has plans, like, I don't have plans, and I think that that probably bothers, like, very type A people. Outside of scheduling posts, that's the most planning that I do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Today, I was like, "Oh, I should put out a podcast today." I thought that this morning, and I was having a conversation with somebody about the GS1 2027 Sunrise UPC change to a QR code, so I posted about it. I I don't know, I have strong principles, like close-fisted principles, but very open-handed methods. So, my principles are I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to post. I'm going to carry myself with integrity. And I actually recently had to put up a post about like with a public apology because I didn't act within who I want myself to be. I let my sort of human instincts take over, and I don't like that part of me. I'll be totally candid. And I fought with somebody, and I don't like being that person who's just fighting and divisive. So that's a principle that I violated, and so I had to make it right. I want to carry myself with integrity. I want to represent, my Christ likeness as a pastor, and I want to be disciplined. I just want to create a podcast every week and a social media post every day. I don't pay attention to the trends or the algorithms. I use artificial intelligence to help edit stuff, to create show notes, to make short form clips. Sometimes, if I'm looking for an idea, I will do that. But when there is a post on LinkedIn or a video, I make it or type it with my fingers. That's a principle that I really hold to. My packaging show notes are all generated by AI. I'm not going to sit there and type up paragraphs. And I say that in the, in the notes. So
Yeah, yeah.
I want people to really engage with me as a human being, and that's another principle that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I even have, like there's, like, the AI recorders, these little microphone recorders, which are really cool. It's a little, like, credit card sized microphone, basically. For me, it helps when I'm doing a lot of freelancing right now, and keeping things straight when you're doing freelancing is difficult for me because I kinda get scatterbrained, and so I need something to kinda, like, rein in the stuff that I'm working on, you know? So using AI for that kind of, like, note taking or for coming up with, like, a list of to-do things afterwards, I think is really powerful, but
Yeah, I love it, but it's in terms of like, I'm not going to use AI to drive all of my social content, right? There are people who do that, and I see them all the time. They're writing blogs, and it's just like they're just creating, I would just say, like, terrible AI content constantly, and my view on that is that that's going to lose in the long run. I think that there's a level of humanity that is going to win out even when AI is replacing and taking jobs and job functions and businesses. I think there's gonna be a bit of a human rebellion against it, and kind of like how records came back, LPs came back, and CDs are coming back now, like, yes, streaming music is way more convenient, but we like physical books. We are physical, tangible creatures, and I can't imagine a world that we are really excited about just consuming AI music, AI videos, and AI content on a platform that's all driven by AI. I don't see a world where that's an exciting thing for a biological human being to be super pumped about.
yeah, I agree completely. I think you lose a lot of your tone of voice too when you're just pumping stuff out through AI, and you can train it as much as you want to, like how you talk and how you type and whatever. But at the end of the day, it is important to, in my opinion, to have your tone of voice because if I'm going to go to an interview or something and I've had my whole resume just retyped through with AI, and you go to that interview and then you're a completely different person from what was seen online, that's like, to me, that's like a red flag right off the bat. I'd rather have some reality to those posts, you know?
100%. And I will say, by the way, speaking about tone, you mentioned I wrote a book, and I wrote 2 books. I wrote a kid's book, called Packaging Peaks in the Sticky Situation, and I recently wrote a sales book, called Sales Exegesis, which, thank you for reading and promoting, but
Yeah. It's a
I
great
am
book. We're gonna
thank you.
talk about it too, because I wanna dive into that too, but, like, yeah, but keep
No,
going.
we can transition right now because I am not a writer. That is not a skill that I really have. I can verbally process. That comes from my pastoral background. I practice a sermon probably 10 to 12 times out loud in my car by myself. I record it, I re-listen to it, I refine it. That's how I've been doing this pastoral process. So I thought I could write a book, but I'm going to use AI to help me write the book. And you can probably tell, at least I could tell, the tone in the book is different than how I talk because of AI. And I mentioned it in the notes, right? Like I have an AI ghostwriter that helped me with this. I tried to train it as best I could. I went through and read it a couple times. I made a ton of changes. But at the end of the day, I did not sit down and write a book with my fingers, 100 pages. It would have taken me way too long. And so there is a little bit of that that gets lost. I think it's a great way of putting it that your tone can get lost. The principles are all mine. The stories are all mine. All of that is very real. It's just the actual writing of it. I think I wish I could write like that. I really do. I wish I could have sat down and written an entire book by myself, just from my brain to the keyboard. I couldn't. I didn't have that sort of consistent time to pull that off.
No, I understand that because it takes forever to do that. I think that the nice thing about your book is that it's digestible. It's not a 400-page manual, right? It's like you said, about 100 pages, and it's super digestible. And I felt like it was at least close enough to your tone of voice where I felt like I was listening. I could almost like audio book hear you talking through the book. So I think it was very close, right? And the principles in the book I think are really great. Comparing, DMX versus Ice Ice Baby from Vanilla Ice. Like you pull from a lot of stuff in this book, and I think that it's really great. But can you kind of tell me like what made you want to write this book
Mhm.
and kind of what led you down the path of talking about it in that manner of like exegesis verse? I'm gonna get the other one wrong, but
Eisegesis, yeah.
yes, thank you.
Um, yeah, so it's my pastoral training. I came from the world of learning the art and science of how to interpret an ancient book. And it's very difficult. It's an insanely hard task to interpret ancient literature and then apply it in a way that is palatable to somebody else. what I realized I was doing in my sales job was that I was leaning on these principles because I didn't know what else to do. I was leaning on principles. I quote my dad a few times in the book as well. My dad was in sales, and he gave me a lot of sort of peakisms that I carried with me, and I still do to this day. And so I realized I had to lean on these things. And then I got to the point of writing the book because I realized that this cross section of there's plenty of books on the exegetical interpretive model of biblical studies. I have the books. They're kind of hard to read. They're big and thick and dense and very academic. And I've read them and I've written reports on them and all that kind of stuff. And then the sales books, which there's a lot, there is a ton of noise in the sales industry. And feel like it's kind of just added to that. But I wanted to make the complex simple as I could. And so the idea is that eisegesis, you begin with a preconceived idea, you already have the end in mind, and then you formulate and process data that confirms your conclusion. That's eisegesis. We see this a lot in echo chambers around social media, specifically in politics and religion, where people will just take what they already believe to be true and only consume the data that supports their viewpoint. And I say, like, vanilla ice, ice is bad. By the way, I wrote this before ice had a different meaning in the
Yeah.
sociological space, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. This was out months ago prior to any of the other
Prior
stuff.
prior to anything that happened
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but whereas, like, exegesis is the process that I really try to deliver on, which is you start with as much of a clear mind as you can. No one is gonna have a completely clear mind. But you say, "What do I know is objectively true?" And if you can formulate, in this case, a sales plan around objective data and formulate questions around objective data, I found in my sales career that people valued that because you are actually valuing them and their data and, their truth to borrow another term. Yeah, I'm putting that at the pedestal, not my products, not my services. It is I wanna know about them. I wanna know about their products. I wanna know about their problems. I wanna know about their jobs. My dad said, "Fall in love with your customers' problems, not your company's solutions." And that to me has carried as a principle for a very long time. So that's kind of yeah, the book does, like, dip into sort of like 90s hip hop and old dead theological authors mixed with my father and modern sales leaders like Keenan and Dale Dupree and Jeb Blunt and Beck Holland. So yeah, there's a bunch going on there.
Yeah, and I've been listening to some of those other authors you've mentioned because you gave me a list of books to listen to or to try to find and read. And I'm listening right now to gap selling, and I think that the concepts in gap selling are really interesting. Just from like, it makes sense because you want to figure out where you can help them.
Yeah,
Basically, is what
current
it comes
state,
down
future
to.
state. What's the gap? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Um,
very hard though, by the way. It's very hard. I became a certified gap sales trainer and I went through that with Keenan. And I will tell you, simplicity is hard to get to. Like you have to work hard to get to simplicity. And Keenan is a master at it. I highly recommend gap selling. And I think they even have a gap prospecting book out now, maybe. So they're coming out with a bunch of stuff. But yeah,
yeah,
it's all really good content.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, can you talk about your superpower of getting to know fast? Because I feel like that's one of your things you talk about in the book is like understanding that people are going to possibly drag you along, and the faster you can get to know, the better you are for your company.
Yeah, this was all experiential, honestly, and I did kind of found a formula called the sales acceleration formula that I think is really useful. And that does require you to understand that no is the second best answer that you can get. And the faster you can get to that answer, typically the faster your close rates are going to go up, your days to close are going to shrink. Your deal size is probably going to get a little bit bigger, and the number of opportunities that are good opportunities you're going to be calling on, it's going to just create a flywheel, right? So I learned this actually because of the state of Utah. So I was living in Colorado. I started this company, and I was told you don't have to go to Utah probably. There's a bunch of opportunities there, but, you're not part of the club, basically was what I was told. You're not part of the LDS church. I was like, "Okay. I don't see what that has to do with anything, but I'll give it a shot." So, I started out meetings with 3 things. I said, "Hey, listen, thanks for meeting with me. Appreciate." I would fly over here. This is a lot of work to go and give someone permission to say no within 5 minutes. And not only no, I will take you off my list and never contact you. That was the permission that I gave them at the very beginning. Number one, I don't live here. Obviously, I flew in here from Colorado. This is before I moved here, clearly. Number two, we don't have a facility here. And a lot of companies I know like to work with local Utah printers. That's not us. And number three, I don't think this has any merit, and you don't have to tell me which one. But I was told that because I'm not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints, people in Utah wouldn't work with me. And everybody laughed at that
Yeah.
because it was nonsense. But it could create a moment of levity in the situation such that they could then feel comfortable, like, okay, he's pretty self-aware and I'm not making fun of them. I'm actually making fun of the people who are making fun of them.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but it was true. I was giving them truth up front. I was starting the conversation from a position of truth. And what I found is that people in Utah really bleeping loved being told the truth. I think everybody does that. In those cases, I only had a handful of people say, I really appreciate that. We only work with local printers. We do a lot of press checks and we don't want to be flying around the country. And I said, listen, I completely get it. And I honored my word. I took them off my list. I took them out of our marketing database and I never called them again. I just said, if you end up at a new company, let me know. And sometimes that happened. But by the time I was done, Utah was I think it was the fastest growing state in the entire company in terms of revenue gain. We went from about 0 to $8 million in revenue in the state of Utah in about 5 years. So much so that I was flying here every other week. I had to move here. And that all came from a principle of saying, like, I'm okay with hearing no. And as a matter of fact, that's probably the only thing I can control is trying to get you to tell me no as quickly as we possibly can and giving you permission to say that and having it be a win for me. And that is opposite. A lot of salespeople now I deal with salespeople coming into my office and cold calling me. And a lot of it is like, let me tell you how great we are. And I got to be honest with you. I just don't care how great you think you are. But it's marketing, it's the sales pitches, it's the presentations. You probably dealt with this a little bit as a packaging engineer. It's all of that stuff and it's like I don't I don't wanna know that. I it doesn't help me. So, yeah, I think that getting to the no, whether it's uh a job interview or a sale or you're asking out your high school crush to prom, um, you don't wanna be in the friend zone. You don't wanna be in no man's land or the maybe. "Oh, yeah, this looks pretty good. Well, maybe. I think I gotta go talk to some people," and usually I'd say, "I totally understand that. I know you gotta go talk to some people. I just want you to know, I suspect this means that we're probably not in it, and that's okay for me. It's actually great for me to know that. It sounds like we're probably 10 to 15% high on our RFP, for example. And if that's the case and we're out, you can just tell me that we're out. I'm fine. We'll slap hands. I'll even take you to a congratulatory lunch. We'll call it the no lunch. And we'll celebrate the fact that I didn't get it because that means that you found somebody that's better than me. And there's plenty of people who are better than me. And that's okay. Everyone's going to be fine.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful, and it's something that I've caught myself doing before reading your book. I've caught myself saying like, "Oh, maybe call me back in like a month, or maybe call me back in like a month and a half, or oh, this is the wrong quarter, to have this conversation with a salesperson." And that's people calling me. And that's not me calling out, right? That's them calling me. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this isn't fair because 95% chance it's not going to happen. And so I have also now become a person who, when salespeople call me, I say no very fast now, and I think it's a sign of respect of like, I don't want them chasing their tail to try to win me over if I know at the end of the day it's probably not going to happen. So I'd rather let them down gently,
Mhm.
early, right?
Early. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like you get more respect that way of just even as a client side as opposed to the business side. If it's not going to happen, I feel like if I were to have a conversation with you about I need to order a bunch of labels and, you know, we ended up going back and forth for a long time, I feel like I'd lose a little bit of respect. I'd rather just tell you up front, "You know what? This isn't working out. Let's figure it out maybe another time."
100%. And I think for a supplier too, and I've had plenty of these conversations where I'll tell somebody flat out, like they'll say, "This is what I need. We're really in a hurry. and I'll say that we're really not a great I can't do this for you, and I don't say no, it's always a no, but. No, but here's who you wanna call. You wanna call my friend Brian at Harmonized Label in New Jersey. You wanna call Mark at Myers in Minneapolis. I have 0 problem saying no to a customer and then offering them an off ramp and saying, "Hey, but you can go call these people, and I think they'll be great for you." And and that's not like, "Oh, and they're gonna come back to me." There's no strings attached to that. I'm not gonna chase them down and be like, "When you owe me one, I did you this solid." That's no good.
But
So
they probably do come back to you though, because they probably have a respect for that, right?
sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes they do. I'm not saying it never happens, but I don't chase it down. That's the whole point is, and I think I talk about this in the book as well, like, I wanna be a giver, not a lender. I don't wanna loan people my time or loan people my network and have the terms and conditions in the back of my head that somebody doesn't know. They don't know it's a loan. They don't know that they're in debt to me. And then I show up and I'm trying to collect on the debt. That sounds miserable and a terrible way to go through life. And so if I can be a giver and just giving gifts constantly, I do think there's a power of reciprocity. It's a play in the world. Call it karma, call it reciprocity, whatever it is, but I don't chase it. That's the whole thing. I'm not running around looking for it. If I spend my time giving, I suspect that I'll receive at some point.
So we're coming up on time. So what do you want your legacy to be on from a packaging standpoint? And then let's talk about like in life. I know it's a deep cut, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. I think that I don't really differentiate much in my life, in my job, or my, like, pastoral career. You know, I wanna be known as somebody who loves God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loves my neighbor as myself. It's the greatest 2 things that I think that we can do as humans, and that's what I want to do. So, if I'm gonna be running a business, I wanna run it with a Christ-like integrity. I wanna have fun, I wanna have joy. I want to create peace in situations. I want to be patient. I want to be kind. I want to have self control. I want to, like I said, create jobs. I want for my employees to love coming into work. I want them to have great health care. I want to give them raises. That's all part of loving my neighbor as myself. And so if those are the 2 things that I am known for as a husband, as a pastor, as a parent, as an employer, as a podcast host, then that would be incredible. Um, and that's kind of it for me. Again, it seems simple. Just the 2, of the 613 laws, that the Pharisees, were following. Jesus says there's just 2 that are pretty important. And so just trying to be a person who embodies those 2 is tough, but that would be it.
yeah, that's beautiful, man. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I bleep and love it, man.
Adam, where can people find you? If they want to get a hold of you, where are you going to be next? I know that kind of the expo circuit, I feel like has slowed down a little bit this year. Are you going out anywhere? Are you doing anything? What's the scoop?
Yeah, so online, just myspace.com, search for Adam Peak, Tom's in my state, and, I think I got a new song on my page, so, it's gonna be rocking. No, you can find me mostly on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest, linkedin.com/in/Adam Peak. You can also go to my website, which is just adampeak.com. That has a whole bunch of stuff there. Thelabelking.com is the company that I'm running here. In terms of events, I'm really trying to not go to many events. So we recently signed up with CERM, CERM as our MIS solution. So I'll be at the CERM user group in Dallas here in March. Maybe this episode will come out after that's out. So maybe I was there in the past. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to be speaking at the Packaging and Distribution Manufacturers (PDM) show in Florida at the end of March. So that's exciting. I'm on a panel discussion in San Diego, March 24th for the Flag Group, which is a label industry group. So that's exciting. And then outside of that, I have no plans to attend any trade shows at all. I might go to Label Expo. Seems important.
Just a little bit.
But yeah, that's where I'm at as of today. How about
Cool.
you? What's your next trade show you're going to?
I honestly, I haven't been to a trade show in a while, and I didn't do any last year because my wife was pregnant. And now we have our first kiddo, and so I'm trying to like stay home as much as I can.
Amen.
I was going to try to squeeze in Pack Expo East because it's in Philly and I'm in New York. It's not that far.
What part of New York are you in?
I'm in upstate near Syracuse.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm kind of my neighbors are cows and corn. I've got nobody. I'm in the rural area of New York. I call it the I call it the bowels of New York when I talk to my mom because there's like no signal. There's just cow poop everywhere. It's great.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, man. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on, dude, and thank you for coming on and chatting. And I really recommend that everyone read your book. I think that it's. I have it saved on my phone. I have highlights in it. I read it every once in a while. And I think it's a great resource to have. And like I said, it's very easy to digest. So
Well, I'm happy that I was able to pledge tribute and it's been awesome.
yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, y'all, for stopping in for another episode of I Bleeping Love Packaging, the podcast for people who bleeping love packaging, and for those who just don't know it yet. Today's episode was awesome. I really appreciate Adam taking the time to chat with me and to talk on the podcast. Today's code, if you want the sticker pack, is going to be King, King. And that's because Adam is, again, the label king of the mountains and just a great guest to have on. So thank you again to Adam and hope you guys stick around for next week. And we have another great guest lined up. And yeah, see you guys then.